Hi, everyone. This is Paul Pereira, Vice President of Patient Advocacy at Saniona, and I'd like to welcome you to Saniona's Community Voices, where we highlight the voices of people living with rare diseases, their caregivers, and the medical professionals who treat them. Today, we're here with Marci Serota, who knows a great deal about hypothalamic obesity, personally and professionally. She has two sons. One son survived a craniopharyngioma and is living with hypothalamic obesity. Also, Marci is a registered dietitian nutritionist, helping many in the HO community, and she's the author of the book, Hungry for Solutions, A Mother's Quest to Defeat Hypothalamic and Childhood Obesity. Marci, welcome.
Thank you.
Marci, can you share your family's journey with hypothalamic obesity?
Yeah, so my son was diagnosed with hypothalamic obesity about the age of 3.5 years old. And it pretty much destroyed our quality of life almost immediately. We went to see the doctor. He told us, the neurosurgeon, he told us that they could take the tumor out, but it was in a really, really difficult location. And it was very, very close to the hypothalamus, which is a gland in your brain that controls your weight and your appetite and your metabolism. And so most likely, if they were to take this tumor out, there was a high percent chance it was going to cause this unrelenting, severe form of obesity that was not going to respond to diet and exercise, that we would have to lock the refrigerator, that, my son could very well have a heart attack by the time he was 10 years old, because he would potentially gain so much weight so quickly. So we decided to have this surgery because we couldn't leave a tumor in his brain, and he did develop this condition. And it happened very quickly. It was a unrelenting, vicious, horrendous experience. I mean, my 3-year-old gained 150 pounds by the time he was 9 years old. I mean, my 9-year-old outweighed me by almost 60 pounds. There's this messaging system that goes from your brain to your gut and from your fat cells to your brain. And they're constantly communicating. So your fat cells tell your brain, we have enough storage here, decrease the appetite a little bit. And then your brain responds by making you feel full. Well, with this condition, that doesn't work. It's completely gone haywire. So, that's really the most difficult part of this condition. It's not even the weight gain. It's the constant hunger that really just destroys the quality of life for anybody who is unfortunate enough to end up with this condition. So, and I'm a dietitian. So, I thought that I would have been well equipped to handle this, but the truth is that it is such a rare condition that it was not something that got more than a sentence in a book that I studied when I was doing my training and in college. So, I really didn't know how to handle it. And none of the doctors that treated this condition knew what to do either. So we were very much on our own, trying to figure out how to manage this condition.
Wow. So, so how did you manage this condition? What did you do?
So after he hit, that around 180 mark, he started to, develop, of course, liver disease and high blood pressure, sleep apnea, high triglycerides. And his doctor at that time pretty much told me, I think you should get gastric bypass surgery, bariatric surgery to help him, because I don't see how he's going to be able to live much longer at this rate. And so I dug deep down and decided this, that was not something that I wanted to do. I didn't want to put him through yet another major surgery that we didn't even know if it would work or not. And so I had been very distracted for the past 6 years. I mean, caring for an ill child who had pretty much turned into a special needs child overnight. I mean, he could not be left alone. The minute we left the kitchen, he was in there taking food. I'm talking a loaf of bread, 10 apples, inhaling huge quantities of food. And then on top of that, he, was on like 20 different medications, new medical issues that were, had a pretty steep learning curve in terms of how to manage them at home. And then, of course, all the therapy that he needed to go to recover from the brain surgery. I guess I was just kind of in survival mode for that first 6 years. So when I decided, finally, okay, I need to do whatever it takes, I remembered a period in my life as a professional where I had worked with clients with food addiction. And the way that we treated them was to remove all the sugar and all the flour. So that means all processed foods, all bread, all pasta, crackers, anything with sugar in it. We removed it from their diet. We put them in 12-step programs and we treated the sugar and the flour like a drug. And we did see that that really helped them manage their food cravings and manage their addiction. So I thought, you know what? I bet something like that would work here. If anything will work, maybe that'll help. So that's what I did. We've taken all of the sugar, the flour, and the processed food out of our house and out of my child's diet. We've added exercise in a couple times a week, and we have optimized his pituitary hormone replacement, which is something that can also affect metabolism. And then he treat him almost like a diabetic. He produces a lot of insulin, another side effect of this condition. And so I try to keep his carbohydrate load very slow and steady throughout the day.
Absolutely. So you described a number of measures that you and your family have taken to control this hyperphagia. What are some of the other measures that new families take sort of early on to control hyperphagia?
Well, there's a lot more than just the hyperphagia that's going on. The only way to control the hyperphagia, get rid of the sugar and eat as little flour and processed food as possible. It just takes the edge off the cravings. It doesn't completely make them go away. Um, they also have some pituitary dysfunction going on. So there's a lot you can do to sort of optimize the hormone replacement that they're receiving to address the pituitary deficiency in a way that helps to increase their metabolism a little bit. And then, of course, just keeping them moving. You have to kind of use all of them together to make an impact. Like, not doing one of those things doesn't help. You got to hit this thing from several different angles to see results.
That makes sense. Marci, could you spend a little time talking about the impact on the family? I would imagine that the burden on caregivers must be extreme, but also on the entire family.
Oh yeah, I mean, that's really the most difficult part. I mean, it destroys the entire family's quality of life overnight. I mean, if you think about it, anywhere you go to be social involves food. You go to restaurants, you go to a party, you go to school, and there's a birthday party, every week up through sixth grade where, the mothers are sending donuts and cupcakes. It's just, we live in this very obesogenic environment where, food is always around, it's very available, it's always being offered, and it's usually not the type of food that our bodies are meant to be eating in the first place. We basically became very isolated. I mean, we couldn't go out, we couldn't go to parties, we couldn't go to restaurants, we couldn't socialize with our friends, because what would happen is, you have a child that's 5 years old and they're starving and you won't let them eat, and everyone around them is eating or, getting seconds and thirds of whatever they want, and you tell your child, well, you can't do that. They have a tantrum, and they're tantruming well into their teens over this. So you start just not going out because it just ruins everything. You can't ever take your eyes off your child in a social situation because they're going to be stealing food. I mean, children with this condition, they will eat out of trash cans. They will steal food out of their classmates' backpacks at school. You cannot take your eyes off of them. Your life becomes food policing until you make that very difficult decision to lock the refrigerator, which nobody wants to do. It's so dysfunctional. It's so just a horrible way to have to live. You basically can't even go to the bathroom. You can't take a shower. You can't take a nap. You can't go outside to visit with the neighbor and walk your dog for a minute because your child is inside getting as much food as possible and hiding it away in different places throughout the house. My younger son has developed a horrible relationship with food. I mean, nothing's ever been normal, and everything has always been about his brother and keeping his brother from food. And so he's been very affected by this too. It's very difficult.
Marci, what innovations do you hope to see for people living with HO?
Some people with hypothalamic obesity don't have this appetite, this hyperphagia. They just become enormous and they barely eat anything. So we need something for their metabolism. Then you've got the other group with the slow metabolism, and on top of it, they are constantly hungry. And for that group, I can almost promise you every single one of those people would be willing to say, if you could just make this hunger go away, I don't even care about the weight. My life will improve so much if you can just take even 25% of this hunger away, this obsession with food, this drive to eat, 50%. And that's my biggest hope. There is a medication can be developed that will help address those two issues, so that children and adults don't have to live this way. And they can get their lives back and have friends and socialize again and, focus on hobbies and being a human being.
For the researchers that are studying treatments for HO, many of them will never have an opportunity to meet with families. What words of wisdom do you have for them?
Just please don't give up on us. Um, we're desperate, and anything you can do to even fix this a little bit, help it by just half, we would be incredibly grateful for.
Marci, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it, and thank you.
You're welcome, Paul.